currently the more profitable, represents 33% of overall railway passengers in France. After the success of Paris-Lyon route, several other lines were established. Atlantic high-speed railway line in 1989 from Paris to Tours, North high-speed railway line in 1993 from Paris to Lille, Mediterranean high-speed railway line from Lyon to Marseille in 1994 for the third part and in 2001 for the second part. East high-speed railway line from Paris to Strasbourg in 2007 for the first part and 2016 for the second part. And finally, West high-speed railway line from Tours to Bordeaux and another one from Le Mans to Rennes, sorry, in 2017. By this extensive network, which spread in all directions with Paris as center, actually looks like a star. This shape is called in France a radial model, referred to French politic centralization. Furthermore, this common characteristic is shared by Spain, as you know, with the last presentation. I would also like to add some peculiar features about the type of station of French high-speed rail. Firstly, TGV can use the railway tracks and stations of the traditional railway. So TGV serves a large part of French territory. Then the second kind of station is exclusively located on high-speed railway line. In this slide, I would like to emphasize the role of high-speed rail station because it's different than conventional railway. At the start of the French high-speed rail, this station on high-speed railway line were not planned because they could increase the travel time in TGV. But the French state wanted to support the industrial development during the crisis in the west of Europe. And at the same time, local players, Mayotte, for example, wanted their own high-speed rail station. That's why the French state decided to create stations on high-speed railway line in order to promote regional planning. Because of the increase of travel time with a service by a station located in the center of the cities, high-speed rail stations were located only on high-speed line. There are two first examples, Le Creusot TGV and Mâcon TGV on high-speed railway line between Paris and Lyon. Now I'm going to give more details about high-speed rail station. A first type is represented by stations located close to a major infrastructure, such as Disneyland Paris or another example, Lyon-Saint-Exupéry Airport. Secondly, there are stations located very close to an urban area. This is the case for Reims-Champagne-Ardenne TGV, a city located to the east of Paris. And thirdly, there are stations located between two cities. It's a political consensus. We can see the case of Lorraine TGV between Metz and Nancy, and another example, Belfort-Montbéliard TGV between Belfort and Montbéliard, both located to the east of France. In fact, authorities and French government in those cases didn't want to favor one city over another. That's why I said it's a political consensus. Lastly, before a third part on French high-speed rail effects, let me give you some figures to show the current situation of high-speed rail in France. In 2019, high-speed rail represents 1.88 billion of passengers per kilometer. 90% of long travels were made by TGV, and at the moment, we have 2,800 kilometers of high-speed rail line, which represent only 10% of French railway network. In this third part, I want to show that railway connection to high-speed rail is one stake for local and regional authorities, especially, but socioeconomic effects represent some stakes too. And there are various impacts according to the temporality. At first, we noticed immediate effects linked to the building of infrastructure. For example, a local company can work for the construction site. Then we noticed medium and long-term effects. As you know, local and regional authorities participate in the financing of high-speed rail in order to improve the accessibility of their territories. At the same time, they believe that high-speed rail can offer economic development, but as you know, it's not automatic. For example, on the slide, you can see an example of financial participation in the high-speed railway line from Le Mans to Rennes, started in 2017. The total funding is almost 3.3 billion euros, with 1.8 billion of public subsidies. And in this case, local and regional funding represents 28% of the total amount. And it's quite important. That's why in other words, local and regional authorities want a return on investment. In fact, for them, thanks to high-speed railway line, their territories can stay competitive. That's why local authorities plan land development projects around cities, and more precisely, close to the railway stations. But success of those land development projects is generally weaker than expectations of authorities. The analysis of a significant number of land development projects highlights a major observation. TGV strengthens the situation before the infrastructure. Therefore, high-speed rail can marginally affect the development of territory, and the success of planned development projects on territorial context depend on territorial context and strategies of local authorities. I selected two different kinds of projects to show different impacts of high-speed rail. In the case of central stations, for example, in Lille, located to the north of France, authorities wanted to accommodate major companies into new buildings located near the rail stations. However, several years later, through Lille quarter is a success, local and regional companies are more present than international companies. I could have chosen another example, like Perpignan, my city, with the inauguration of high-speed railway line from Perpignan to Figueras to the north of Spain. Local authorities wanted to develop office building, El Centre del Món, but many years later, there aren't new companies leasing from outside the city of Perpignan. It's quite different in the case of rail stations located in suburban areas. Among the diversity of situations, we can observe the different evolutions of neighborhoods next to the station. In Reims, more precisely the station Reims-Champagne-Ardenne TGV, the project is a certain success. In fact, the aim of this project was to receive local and regional companies. Also, the local authorities wanted to serve this area by tramway and traditional train. This connects the central station to Champagne-Ardenne TGV, separated by almost 5 kilometers. And finally, it's a success because the strategy was adapted to the local context. In the case of Le Creusot TGV, on the right in my slide, despite an ambitious project of comprising a center of congress, research laboratories, for example, the development is not a success after 40 years. In fact, this project was not suited to the local context, and there is a lack of effectiveness. I could have chosen another example like Besançon and Belfort-Montbéliard TGV, both located to the east of France. In conclusion, impacts of high-speed rail are not automatic. They depend on local context and, more precisely, strategies of regional authorities. In addition, allow me to present to you another point about impact of high-speed rail in France. The strategies of local and regional authorities are associated with territorial marketing campaigns aimed at attractive economic activities and new families by giving a modern image of the territory. I selected for you different examples of these territorial marketing campaigns. In Perpignan, we can see on the left, we can see the office building, the TGV, and Dalí's moustache. If you know Dalí's, is a notorious Catalan, but as you know, it's not a success for the local and regional authorities. In the Bretagne region, this campaign uses the seller stereotype who looks like an hipster. It intended to attract new residents who come from Paris. In the last part of my presentation, I'm going to present to you the main current stakes in France. Despite a large plan of high-speed rail construction imagined in 2007, the French state stopped all projects in 2017. For many local and regional authorities, it meant a disappointment in terms of access and socio-economic effect in terms of expectations. To understand this cutback, we can find three different reasons. Firstly, the latest projects are less profitable than the previous ones, and the cost of construction increased a lot. For example, the debt in railway system grew in the past. In 1997, it was at 20 billions and at 47 billions in 2018 after the starting of 4 high-speed lines. Secondly, the high-speed rail plan of 2007 was made with the aim of doing clientelism. In fact, each region in France wanted to have an high-speed line, even though this plan was too expensive. And moreover, another solutions existed. And last but not least, the traditional railway network had not been maintained during several years. That's why it is now the priority of investment for the French state. So after this decision in 2017, a lot of regions were considered as losers without high-speed railway line. But recently, in September 2021, President Macron planned a new development phase of railway in France in the context of the post-pandemic. In fact, the French government and he decided to invest 4.7 billion euros in traditional railway and wipe out the debt of 35 billion. He said, as you can see, it's an industrial, environmental, and regional planning gamble. It's interesting because each word refers to an objective. The word industrial because a new version of TGV will be produced in the next few years. And the expression regional planning refers to a plan of 3 new high-speed railway lines in the south of France. The Occitanie region, located to the south of France, very close to the border of Spain, is especially concerned by the high-speed railway line from Bordeaux to Toulouse and another one from Montpellier to Perpignan. And finally, there is a second thing that is noteworthy about the latest context in France. The high-speed rail is going to undergo the opening of competition in 2023. The new competitors should start their offer on the most profitable lines, like, as you know, Paris-Lyon. It must be a big change in the French high-speed rail market. I would like to conclude my presentation with some key highlights. At first, I showed that France is one all country in the world of high-speed rail system. Then, 40 years later, high-speed rails always represent some expectations about accessibility, land development project, and regional planning. But socioeconomic effects depends on territorial context and the involvement of local and regional policies. Next item, ambitions are lower than the previous last decades because of global warming and the decrease of French public expenditure. And lastly, in railway domestic transport, France is going to apply a mix of solutions composed by some projects of new high-speed railway lines, Bordeaux-Toulouse, Montpellier-Perpignan, for example, the redeployment of intercity trains. It's very interesting to observe the situation in France because the French state is going to restart plenty of night train in France and in Europe. And finally, the first element of context, new context, it's a reduction of the number of inland flights under half past 2 hours if a train line is practical without connection. Thank you for your attention, and I have finished my presentation.
Thank you so much for Guillaume. Finished actually 2 minutes before your 30 minutes session, and exactly the 10:30. Actually, originally the time schedule for this session. Are we able to have a small question time, or we are going to move on for break?
Dr. Chen, I think we can have question for 1 or 2 questions. For us, time for 1 or 2 questions. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. So thank you so much for Guillaume's presentation in terms of the 40 years experience from France. Now I think it's open for everyone to post questions for me or for Ampalo and Guillaume. Any questions from the floor? I actually have a question I saw from the chat. It's about from Kasim. A lot of questions, details, which I think Ampalo has replied. But there's a question which is more open up from Kasim about what is the model, learning from Europe and different countries. What is the model of high-speed rail in the world? I think this is a kind of question quite interesting for everyone. I wonder, would anyone would like to, add or, contribute to the discussion?
Well, surely there can't be one single model, right? Because what we've learned is that it's very different. High-speed rail is very different from country to country or from region to region.
Yeah, I agree. I think my answer would be, I think it's a very interesting question. And it is also, I would say, learn from different countries to know what worked and what did not work. And then to sort of come up with some answer for your own country or your own context, that could be the best answer I can, my answer to that question. How about Ampelo and Guillaume? Do you want to add anything?
It's a very interesting question, but I don't have answer for that because it's each country are very specific, and we don't find a model for high-speed rail. In my PhD, I compare with the Spain situation, and yes, we are both centralized, but there is some. It depends on regime. It depends on local authorities. It depends on plenty of factors, patterns.
Yeah, of course. And in my case, I think it's also depending on, as I mentioned in my presentation, in the urban systems, how the territorial situation of the country, which is different. In China, you have a more polycentric development. In Spain, is more it's similar than in France. So finally, the network shape, the services provided, and the implications will be very, very different depending on the situation. Or in Italy, for example, that is a main corridor with only one line with different, because the country is very long. So in the end, I think it will be based mainly on the territorial situation and the distribution of the urban systems, and also on the size of the urban systems and the intermediate territories. At least for Spain, is key. And also, yes, it's to find how this high-speed rail system could be adapted to the different geographies.
Thank you. I can see there's one question from the dialogue, the chat, which is for Guillaume, and it's about, you say, the excessive cost in France. And can you please specify what kind of cost is the largest?
I'm going to answer, but yes, the cost increase a lot because we have a lot of bridges and another specific infrastructure. For example, the government planned a new high-speed railway line from it's a project, but from Marseille to Nice, and the environmental cost is very, very important, and that's why I said the cost increased a lot for the latest project. And for example, the high-speed railway line from Montpellier to Perpignan depends on the environmental cost, and that's why the government planned only two stages. The first one from Montpellier to Béziers, which are separated by almost 50 kilometers.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think we can wrap up here.
Thank you, Dr. Miano and Dr. Caroy. Now we'll take a short break for about 25 minutes, and we will start session 2. We'll start at 6 p.m. Hong Kong time, 11 o'clock British summer time. So see you later.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you, Jen.